Hello and welcome to another edition of Home Talk right here on 1040 KGGR. I'm Robert Ashley. We thank you once again for being with us today right here on 1040 at KGGR. Joining me momentarily will be our good friend Rob Stern of Lenders Residential Mortgage and Mortgage Solutions. And once again, we're honored to be with you here on 1040 KGGR. Now through the years, many of you remember me for working over there on our former station, Heaven 97 KHVM. But this is indeed the new home for gospel music and ministry right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And once again, we're honored to have our good friend Rob Stern of Lenders Residential Mortgage with us. Now here on 1040 KGGR, we encourage you to become a homeowner. Many of you, just like I did, I lived in an apartment for about 20 years before I decided to go ahead and invest and get myself a home. And I'm honored and I'm thankful to God that I was able to do that. And for all the young men out there who are getting ready to get married, we encourage you now, before you get married, make sure you have secured a residence so that you can carry that bride over the broom there and you all can live a blissful, happy life. Well, let's bring our good friend Rob Stern into the conversation here on 1040 KGGR. Now, of course, our phone lines are open at 972-988-1040. That's 972-988-1040. If you have a question or a comment about the American dream of home ownership, you are concerned about your credit, Rob Stern of Lenders Residential Mortgage and Mortgage Solutions can help you get your credit straight. And also for the young people, we don't want you to mess your credit up. So let's be bankable and credit worthy. And first of all, Rob, I want to say good Friday to you. How are you, Rob?
Doing really well today, Robert. Thank you so much for asking. Thank you for having me.
Well, hey, thank you for being with us here on 1040 KGGR because, Rob, you were with us down through the years on Heaven 97 KHVN. And when the format changed, we just want to thank you, Rob, for continuing to sow into our community and help with regards to the American dream. Well, first of all, Rob, let's talk about the interest rates, because when you buy a home in this day and time, you want to have the interest rates as low as you possibly can. And there's been a lot that's been going on in our economy. Got a new president of the United States. I hate I didn't go out and buy me any stock like what's been happening there on Wall Street. But Rob, how are you, man?
Doing great, buddy. I'm doing outstanding. And interest rates, interest rates are kind of holding steady right now. We're seeing some upward movement in the marketplace, and I think a lot of that's because of the uncertainty that we're experiencing right now, Robert. We are 10 days into this new administration, perhaps 2 weeks into the new administration. The stock market has gone through some pretty significant ups and downs. You were talking a moment ago about the GameStop debacle and that happening. I believe that we're going to see a lot of consistency, a lot of movement that's going to be very similar to what we're experiencing right now. Interest rates are still very attractive. We're seeing 30-year rates in the high twos. That's right, the high twos to perhaps the mid threes. So rates are incredibly attractive. Purchasing a home, refinancing a home, 15-year rates are even lower than that. But again, we do anticipate over the next few years, cyclically, we're going to see these rates increase. We're going to see things start to move upwards just because of the economy that we're living in, the fact that it is a pretty much supply and demand economy, and there's just not enough houses to go around. That's part of what forces the price of home ownership higher, and ultimately that's what pushes the interest rates higher.
Mm-hmm. Well, once again, now, for those of you who are with us here on 1040 KGGR, Robert Ashley is my name, along with Rob Stern of Lenders Residential Mortgage and Mortgage Solutions. I will be with you each and every Friday talking about the American dream of home ownership. We want you to become a home owner, particularly those of you who've been renting apartments for quite some time. Now, Rob, let's give out your contact number for people who might want to call you.
Thank you, Robert. My telephone number is 972-739-2350. That's 972-739-2350. And you can also find me on the internet. Just go to Lenders Texas, LendersTexas.com.
All right. Now, Rob, we're at the beginning of a brand new year. It's time to file for our income tax returns. For people who own property, getting ready to pay those property taxes. So why don't you just kind of talk to us about taxes and how it impacts this time of the year?
Sure. We are at a time, you're right, where property taxes are in fact due. And surprisingly, Robert, there's still a lot of people who choose not to escrow their taxes as part of their mortgage payment every month. As such, that means that they're probably going to be hit with a very large amount of money that they have to come up with right now. Taxes are actually due the end of January. So we're seeing a lot of people that are choosing to refinance these mortgages as a way of paying those property taxes and uh, trying to mitigate that large expense coming out of their pocket. Um, Property taxes are a necessity, and we all have to pay our fair share as homeowners. Of course, property taxes are deductible, and so that's a real positive for us as homeowners. But still, to that end, um, property taxes are in fact due, and they need to be addressed. Income taxes is another form of tax that we're all responsible for. Unfortunately, we all have to pay our fair share of income tax, right? Income tax is due now, or actually typically due on April the 15th, but we're now all receiving our W-2s. So it's time to go ahead and file or begin thinking about filing those income taxes. We want all of our listeners and viewers to understand when you get these income tax checks, when you get your stimulus check, take advantage of this opportunity and use that money to become a homeowner. Use that money to provide shelter for your family, put yourself into a better place, get out of these apartments, get out of these rent homes and duplexes or condominiums, whatever you're living in. If you don't own it, then you should. And there's really no good reason not to become a homeowner right now with all the competitive loan products we have available and the opportunities that we can provide. We pretty much can put anybody into a home if they want to become a homeowner.
All right. Well, once again, for you listening, you're listening to 1040 KGGR. I'm Robert Ashley, and we thank you once again for being with us. And we're talking about the American dream of home ownership, owning yourself a home, getting your children ready to own a home. And that's one of the things that we're really concerned about. Now, if you have a question or a comment, our phone lines are open right now at 972-980-1040. That's a 972-980-1040. And we are live on Facebook. We want to shout out to all of our Facebook followers out there on 1040 KGGR. Now, Rob, also, we're getting ready to file our income taxes. And when you get that income tax return check back, can you use some of that money possibly as a down payment?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, Robert. And that is probably the best use of money you're going to find. What we're seeing more and more is people taking these tax refund checks when they receive them, their stimulus checks as well, and even taking money out of their 401k or their IRA to become a homeowner. And there's a lot of practical thought behind that. When you see somebody who is earning 2% annually in their 401k and they have enough money to become a homeowner sitting in that retirement account, it doesn't make sense to let that money just languish and not earn interest when it can provide a lifestyle change for you and your family. So we're seeing a lot of people that are actually choosing to be more selective about how they spend their money. And yes, you're absolutely right. These tax refund checks should be put to better use and help somebody become a homeowner.
Yes. Now, Rob, also in terms of our refinancing, going back to those low interest rates that you started off talking about, with the interest rate being so low now, if people were to refinance and began to use the equity in their home, can you tell us about that, Rob?
Yeah, Robert, that's called a home equity loan, as you stated. The state of Texas has some very specific rules and parameters to home equity loans. And the biggest issue is that a home equity loan cannot exceed 80% of the appraised value of a property. So as an example, if a property is worth $200,000, the home equity loan cannot exceed $160,000. Now, a couple of other very specific things to understand about a home equity loan in Texas is that it is driven entirely by your income and your credit score as well as your appraised value. The FHA does not do or allow for home equity loans in the state of Texas. Every other state in the country, but not in Texas. The reason for that is because of the protections of the Texas Constitution. And the Texas Constitution trumps everything. So with that understanding, we're seeing more and more people choosing to take equity out of their house to eliminate their high credit card bills, to be able to pay your credit card bill that's charging you 15% annually off with a 3% mortgage loan makes a heck of a lot of sense. Not only are you eliminating that large debt, but you're doing it with tax deductible money. You're doing it with money that you can actually write off at the end of the year. Whereas when we pay our credit card bills every month. We're paying that money with after-tax money where we've already had taxes taken out. Home equity loans are a real popular way of managing your finances, managing your individual wealth, and we're seeing more and more people choose to take advantage of all the equity they've gained recently. We've had explosive equity growth, Robert, probably over the past 5 years. We've seen a lot of homes double in value, and you use that equity to pay off your bills and make your life more comfortable.
Beautiful. Well, Rob, let's go out your contact information again.
Sure, Robert. My best number, 214, scratch that, 972-739-2350. That's 972-739-2350. And you can also reach me directly at Lenders Texas. That is LENDERSTEXAS.com.
All right. Once again, our guest today, Rob Stern of Lenders Residential Mortgage. Now, if you'd like to call us right now, our phone lines are open. If you have a question or a comment about the American Dream of Home Ownership, 972-980-1040, right here on 1040 KGGR. Now, Rob, also, as we continue to talk about the American Dream of Home Ownership, I just want to spend a minute or two thinking about renting versus buying. I'm getting reports that rent is constantly going up, and some people are paying in rent what they could be paying in terms of a mortgage payment, Rob.
Isn't that crazy? You're absolutely right. And I think, one of the big reasons behind that is because a lot of people think they actually can't qualify for a mortgage to buy a home. They actually feel like they're trapped into renting. I hear people paying $1,500 in rent, $2,000 in rent. I had somebody the other day that was paying $2,800 a month in rent. But they felt like their credit wouldn't support a purchase. Yes. And I'm here to say that they were wrong, and we're putting them into a home. But the point is, as a consumer, you have to be very selective with the choices you make and how you choose to move forward in caring not only for yourself but for your family. Every lender is different. We are a direct mortgage lender. Mortgage Solutions and the Lenders Residential Mortgage team underwrites mortgage loans in-house. We underwrite directly to the guidelines of the Veterans Administration, FHA and HUD. We underwrite directly to the guidelines of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and USDA. The reason this is so important is because typically what you see with the large banks, typically what you see with most other lenders is that they will produce overlays, risk-based overlays that they put on top of these guidelines that are issued by the Veterans Administration, as an example, to try and protect their portfolio. Therefore, they're putting out guidance that may say you need to have a 620 credit score to get a VA loan. Well, that's just not true. The VA will guarantee any mortgage loan regardless of credit score as long as it meets the specific parameter. As a direct conduit lender, we don't have a minimum credit score on our VA loans. We're going to underwrite to the VA guidance, which says the last 12 months has to be clear as far as any kind of charge-off or collection. That's pretty much it. So I think, as a consumer, it really pays to shop, it pays to investigate, but most importantly, it pays to do business with a specific individual when you feel that you can actually trust the integrity of who you're dealing with. Now, you and I, we've been together for 22 years. We've put a lot of listeners into homes, listeners that followed us for many, many years on KHVN and are now following us on KGGR. I'm also happy to say I'm actually dealing now with not only children of those listeners, but grandchildren of a lot of those listeners from all of our years together. It's just very important that you trust your financial future, you trust your credit to somebody where you can have that level of faith and confidence. Look us up on the Better Business Bureau website. We have an A++ rating. That's very important. And again, I think that it's a blessing and clearly a goal to help every KGGR listener we can.
Rob, let's give out that phone number again, sir.
Thank you, Robert. My telephone number, once again, is 972-739-2350. That is 972-739-2350. And I can also be reached on the internet. Just go to Lenders Texas. That is LENDERSTEXAS.com.
All right. And once again, for those of you listening to us here on 1040 KGGR, our phone lines are open. And when we talk about home buying, it's a complicated process, but we want you to understand everything that you need to know so that you can get yourself a home. And for those of you who are already homeowners, you've paid that home off, we want to say congratulations to you because perhaps the best investment you can make here in the United States. All right. And once again, if you have a question, 972-988 at 1040. Now, Rob, a little bit on credit, if you will, because that fear that you spoke of, or a lot of people may fear that they can't move out of the apartment because they can't pass the credit qualifications. Can you help with credit restoration? And also, Rob, for those who have been ripped off by people who've taken their money, saying, I can restore your credit, and the next minute, the credit is still where it is. Credit restoration, Rob.
Yeah, and this is really a good conversation to have. I specifically am not in favor of anybody spending money to have their credit repaired. And I think well, I know there's a real good reason for my personal stance on that. You can't make something bad into something good just because you hire a third party to do it. When you make a mistake, the mistake needs to be addressed. Now, there are ways of resolving these things, and it typically involves the individual just taking the responsibility for mediating the problem and resolving and working forward. But after 30 years in this industry, and this is my 30th year doing this, after 30 years in this industry, I've looked at a lot of credit reports, perhaps as much as, 30 or 40 reports in a day. After all these years of doing this, I've got a very good idea of what can help somebody raise their credit score or put their credit score where it needs to be. And because of that, I suggest that people call me before they do anything and spend any money with a third party to try and get that credit score raised. Another perspective on this would be to say, not everybody's credit is as bad as they may suspect. And unless you have somebody who knows what they're looking at, review your credit report and remark on that and help guide you through the best way to remedy whatever problems there are, you're not going to really have that level of confidence to move forward. And again, I just hate to see anybody spend money on a credit repair program or what have you, when they could be using that money to perhaps pay some of this debt off that has put them into a bad place to begin with.
Very good. But you can help, Rob, with helping people get their credit restored.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. Thank you, Robert. Yeah, I will gladly review anybody's credit report. As a matter of fact, I would recommend anybody who is listening to us that is contemplating becoming a homeowner or contemplating refinancing, just give me a call so that I can review things with you. It's not a difficulty for me to certainly invest the time and the money in doing this. It is the whole purpose why we do this show each and every week and why we've done it for the past 22 years. But you got to start somewhere. Robert, we're always saying if you don't start the process, you can't finish the process. And you have to begin somewhere. It's an entirely free proposition for someone to give me a call. I'm not going to charge them for looking at their credit and trying to build a file. But we have to begin the process. We have to start and create an action plan to move forward.
All right. Once again, we have about maybe 5 or 6 more minutes to go. Once again, talking here with Rob Stern of Lenders Residential Mortgage and Mortgage Solutions, talk about the American dream of home ownership. And as a young man growing up in this country, that was always one of my goals, Rob, was to eventually become a homeowner. And many, many years ago, you helped me. People like Mr. Al Heron talked us into going on and buying a home. And I'm so very thankful. And Rob, before we run out of time, what can you tell us about reverse mortgages? We've got a lot of senior citizens who say, well, look, I almost have this home paid off. I got a lot of equity in this house, but my income may have shrunk. Is a reverse mortgage a way to stay in this house?
Yeah, Robert, a reverse mortgage has a real benefit to a very specific type of consumer. And I think you pretty much described that consumer exactly just a moment ago. A reverse mortgage is not for everybody. And when I say it's not for everybody, if you can comfortably make those mortgage payments every month, and if you're not in a financial position to where there is any kind of discomfort, then perhaps it's not the right move for you. However, let's talk about what a reverse mortgage really is to begin with. A reverse mortgage is quite literally the opposite of a traditional mortgage. In a traditional mortgage, you would make a mortgage payment every month, and you would owe a little bit less every month after that. As you make your payments, the principal would consistently go down. In a reverse mortgage, it's exactly the opposite. You do not make a payment. There is no monthly principal and interest mortgage payment made whatsoever. Rather, that principal and interest is added to the amount of money that you owe on your mortgage loan. So quite literally, after your second month, you owe more than your first month. After your first year, you owe more than you did when you began. Reverse mortgage is very beneficial for someone who perhaps doesn't have anybody to pass that house to generationally. Someone who perhaps wants to take the equity out of that home and use it to meet their living expenses. And again, with the significant growth in equity that we've seen in these homes, we're doing more and more reverse mortgage, more and more reverse mortgages right now. A lot of people are choosing to take that money, perhaps put it in the bank to use for a rainy day. A reverse mortgage is similar to any other kind of home equity loan. You're going to be capped at 80%. The difference with a reverse mortgage is that it's driven entirely by your age and the value of the home. Credit is somewhat secondary on a reverse mortgage. It's all about age and the value of the home. You have to be at least 62 years old, and quite literally, it's a pretty straight up process. When someone is ready to go and wants to move forward, clearly the best thing they can do is explore the options and just give me a call so we can talk through it and see what works best for them.
All right, and of course, your family, of course, will have a chance to retain that home, and if not, there's a process. But once again, let's get out your contact information.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. And I want to get back to that remark too. My contact number, 972-739-2350. That is 972-739-2350. And you can also find me on the internet. Go to Lenders Texas, that is LendersTexas.com. And going back to your remark about the family retaining your home, yes, you do not lose ownership in your home automatically when you do a reverse mortgage. When you do a reverse mortgage, it is designed so that you can pass the home generationally. And when you pass the home, you are not passing the commitment on that mortgage whatsoever. So in other words, if you owe $150,000 on a reverse mortgage and you pass that home generationally, the person who you pass it to has the right to either assume that mortgage and the home, or let the home go back to the lender. Nobody's forcing anybody to do anything. And what happens most often is that the individual will receive that home once it's passed to them, and then turn around and sell it. They will pay off they will go ahead and pay off the reverse mortgage and keep the profit on the home.
Well, Rob, let's see if we can get one caller in before we have to leave the air. Go right ahead there, caller. You're on 1040 KGGR. Go right ahead, caller. Hello. Hello there, caller. Okay, I thought we had a caller standing by there, Rob. Well, I'll tell you what, before we run out of time here, Rob, let's give out your phone number, your contact information again, sir.
Thank you, Robert. My telephone number, once again, 972-739-2350. Looks like they're trying to call again. That's 972-739-2350. And you can also reach me by internet. Go to Lenders Texas, LendersTexas.com.
All right, well, Rob, we got about 1 minute left. We've got a new president. The possibility of the interest rates going back up because of the different economic policies. Should everybody go ahead and get that home refinanced right now while the interest rates are still low? Is there a chance the interest rates may go back up? Janet Yellen, a new Fed chair?
I knew you were going to throw that one at me, Robert. I knew that. Yes, I would definitely say that this is the right time to take advantage of these low interest rates, whether you are looking to purchase a home, refinance your current home, take equity out of your current home.
Yeah.
This is absolutely the right time. It is projected that interest rates will rise. When, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised to see rates go up over a percentage point in the next 12 to 24 months. And I think that quite literally, we've seen rates as low as they're ever going to be right now. There is no better time to take advantage of this opportunity. And if, in fact, you feel like your credit is not where it needs to be, this is the right time to get started. Give me a call. We'll work on the credit. We'll build a file, create an action plan to move forward. I've had many listeners, KHVN, over the years we've worked with for a year and a half, perhaps 2 years, before we were able to get them into a home. But they are in homes and they are happy. We've had so many testimony calls, Robert, over the years. I think that we just want our listeners to reach out and get started and become a homeowner and fulfill that dream.
All right, we're completely out of time here. And once again, I want to thank, of course, our 1040 KGGR listeners. That phone number one more time, Rob, so they can give you a call.
Thank you, sir. I'll be fast. 972-739-2350. That's 972-739-2350.
All right, well, once again, everybody, we've been talking here with our good friend Rob Stern of Lenders Residential Mortgage. Now, we'll be back with you next Friday from 1 until about 1:25 as we talk about the American dream of homeownership right here on 1040 KGGR.